Modern technology has made it so getting our hands on the products we want is as easy as a few taps on your phone, and voila, there's a package on your doorstep. But stop for a moment and think about how that convenience is actually accomplished.
Oh, sorry. Part of it involves massive cargo and container ships. For hundreds of years, these behemoth vessels have been navigating the hazardous channel of the Delaware River and Bay.
And to do this successfully, they require assistance. And joining us this afternoon is Chuck Mowll. He is the author of this book right here, the one that Jimmy is so into.
Yes.
It's called The Pilots of Pilot Town. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon.
So tell me about how, give us some background, I should say, on your pilot ancestors.
Yeah, 5 generations of my family back on the east coast of England, Dover, England, were maritime pilots. It's actually all written up on the internet called the Maritime Moles.
Really?
And so they would go out on schooners. This is before motorized vehicles, vessels.
Mm-hmm.
Go out on schooners and meet the ships and bring them into, London and Dover, and it was called the Cinque Port Pilots Association. So out of Dover, England. So I find it ironic now that I'm on the east coast of, living on the east coast of the United States in Pilot Town, of all places, where it's just the base for maritime pilots covering this area, the Delaware River and Delaware Bay, and the canal and all the little rivers up around the Salem, Pennsylvania area.
But you're not a pilot yourself, or never
I'm not.
have been.
I was just, I watched this show, How It Works on TV, and it's like, that's how my mind works. I see the pilots, I see the ships off the shore, off Rehoboth Beach and Lewis, and I'm going like, well, how does this all work?
How does that work?
And so I spent about a year researching this and interviewed several of the pilots themselves, and it's just fascinating. It's a very complex system of coordination and communication that makes it all work.
I was going to ask, what are the responsibilities of a maritime pilot?
And so I talk about pilots with you, and they go, you mean airplane pilots? No, they're actually maritime pilots.
Right.
And U.S. law requires that any ship entering a tributary, a river, or any body of water in the United States have to have a licensed maritime pilot on board to guide them. And it has to be a local pilot, because they know the local waters, and they know the channels and so forth. And the Delaware River and Bay, if you've ever seen it or been on it, it looks really wide and navigable. And you say, oh, what's the problem? But the channel that these large vessels can go up is very, very narrow. It's just in the middle of the river. So most of the river is about 15 to 20 feet deep. The draft on these ships, these large cargo and container ships, is 35, 40, sometimes 45 feet. And that's the deepest part of the channel, is 45 feet. And so you can imagine these ships are traveling up the channel, and they don't have a whole lot of room for error.
Right. So they need somebody local.
Yes.
So obviously the job is very critical then, and that's what you talk about in this book. Talk about a little bit about what the book covers.
Yeah. So the pilots are just one part of the pilotage process. You have to understand the waters, the 12 ports that are in Wilmington, Philadelphia, and New Jersey. And some of those ports are, the New Jersey port, for instance, where Del Monte has a major juice production, is the largest in the world. So these are not small ports. So you've got to consider everything, all the activity that goes on at the ports, navigating the water, the pilots themselves, all the rules, and then the communication system with the ships that are coming in. Who handles all that? So it's run by the Maritime Exchange. They have responsibility, and they have 300 members, and that's everybody that works up on the docks and the ports, all the service, all the importers, the exporters of goods. And there's $80 billion worth of commerce that goes up and down the Delaware River every year. So it's a big deal. And then the Pilots Association for the River and Bay Delaware is the not-for-profit agency that handles all the training and employment of the pilots and makes sure that they're available when that ship comes in offshore and says, hey, we need a pilot to enter the Delaware River, then they communicate through through the tower. Actually, it's out at Cape Henlopen State Park. There's this tower out there. A lot of people go by and pass, and they say, well, I wonder what that is. It's actually the Maritime Exchange Ship Reporting Tower. So all the ships report into that tower. There's actually a licensed pilot up there along with a Marine Exchange employee, and they'll say, okay, you're coming in, what's your estimated time of arrival? And they'll make sure that a pilot gets on a launch boat at the Cape May Lewis Ferry and go out and meet that ship. Now, the fascinating part about pilots getting on board ships is that most of the time it happens in the dark of night. So if you can imagine at 11 o'clock at night, and this has to be because it's 8 hours up the Delaware River to port. So to get to port at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, they have to leave the mouth of the Delaware River about 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So a pilot goes out on this pilot boat, has to climb up a rope ladder up the side of this ship in the dark of night with a laptop strapped on their back, and then they have to guide this ship, this huge, massive, they're about 250,000 ton ships up
in the dark.
In the dark, up the Delaware River. So it's pretty amazing.
We're going to say something one more time. And it's just to clarify, you are not a pilot.
I'm not.
Why does this fascinate you so?
Well, because of the complexities, and you see, I don't know how many times you see people down at Rehoboth Beach or Lewis or Cape Henlopen State Park, and they look out and see all these ships right offshore. And they go like, well, they're probably thinking in their mind, well, that ship's pretty close to shore. What's going on? Well, they're waiting for a pilot to come out because they can't go into the Delaware River until they have a licensed pilot to get them up to the river. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, I want to find out what's going on here. How does it all work? And these pilots, I say in the book that they are some of the finest mariners and they're called ship handlers in the world, and they are based out of Lewis, Delaware. Yeah. There's 70 of them altogether. About half of them are based out of Lewis, and the other half are based up in Philadelphia. And but they not only are on a different ship every time they get on a pilot, because there's tankers, there's container ships with all the the backs of trucks on the back, containers, and there's what they call ro-ros. They're roll-on, roll-off ships they're just containing cars. So often they're on a different ship every time they go out. So they have to know the maneuverability of that ship. They have to avoid other vessels in the river. They do have GPS that helps them with the depth finding. But there's winds, there's tide changes, so many things that they have to consider, and it makes that job so difficult.
Not an easy job.
Not an easy job indeed. And name of the book is The Pilot's a Pilot Town. Where can we pick it up?
It's available at Rouseabout Books in Rehoboth and also on Amazon.
All right.
Nice.
Charles Mowll, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Very fascinating. Can't wait to read more about it
you're welcome.
in your book.
Good.